The Timeshift.
Hello and welcome to the OG review series on this channel, The Timeshift, and this week I'm reviewing the latest episode of Doctor Who titled The Robot Revolution. We kick off this review, as we always do with these reviews, by talking about the writing, the story, and tangentially related matters. Now, with this particular review series, I don't break this down into positives and negatives, and this week I'm using a format of writing that is more in the classic tradition of these episodes, these reviews, where I've just got a fistful of notes and I'm just going to share my thoughts and feelings on that. But with that said, I'll certainly start out with a major positive for this particular episode, which is that it is a far better opening to a series than Space Babies from the previous series. That has to be said. Like, this is a far better, far stronger, far better opening episode than Space Babies was. Whilst I really didn't like Space Babies, certainly what I will say for its favour, well, such as I can do, is that had that just been a typical mid-series episode, it would have been fine, would have been okay, thumbs up from me. The fact that it was the opening episode, yeah, and this episode, to its credit, does go a long way to basically not be Space Babies. It gives us a thrilling, compelling, exciting adventure, which regrettably does really screw the pooch in the final act, but we'll discuss that when we get there. Now, to keep the positive vibes going a little bit longer, something I will definitely say is that it is refreshing to get an episode of what we'll call the Disney era of Doctor Who, where it does feel like the whole budget is actually being used. I really do love the set design, and I love the design of the robots, even the big robot at the end of it, the fact that all of this is still being done with practical effects in this era of CG being everywhere. It all looks brilliant and fantastic. Oh sure, the robot designs look goofy, they look like a very polished, modernised version of the kind of thing you'd see in classic Doctor Who, but that's part of what I like about them. The fact that we have these guys just in robot costumes is, yeah, I love it. I like it. And I think that at one moment they kind of kept a blooper in where you had Belinda actually banging her head on the back of one of them, so they added a clunk noise in. Which I like. I like touches like that. I love the aesthetics of the episode. I love the set design and the costume design. It really does feel like here is an evolution of the kind of classic Doctor Who stuff that has been sorely missed from modern Doctor Who for the most recent years of it. It is a fantasy science fiction adventure, and I really do love that aspect of it. I will also say that I really do like the core concept of the episode, the kick-off point for it, which is the idea that someone buys or is gifted a star or a section of a planet or a planet in that way that those crappy, slightly scammy novelty gift things are, and someone comes along to collect it. I'm certain that this is not an original idea in science fiction, and I'm fairly certain at some point or another I thought, oh hey, wouldn't that be a cool episode for an idea for a Doctor Who episode, and that's what we ended up getting here. I think that core idea of, oh, I've bought you a star and now the aliens on that star have come to take you away, great idea, and that for the most part it works with this episode, again, until that final act, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Another thing that I'll certainly say is a positive is the fact that I do like the sheer fact that they are pacing out Belinda's discovery as to what the Doctor is far more effectively than they did with Ruby Sunday. In Space Babies, they just outright said, hey, the Doctor's a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey, and he's a time traveller, and all this, that, and the other. Just a massive exposition dump. This week we don't get that. Whilst they do reveal that he is an alien and a time traveller, they don't go quite to that extent, or at least not to the same level of extent, with it feeling like there's still more for Belinda to discover over the course of the subsequent episodes and weeks that we'll be doing all of this. And I like that fact. I like we're actually taking our time with this character. Yes, this is well-worn territory for Doctor Who at this point, but by God, I'd rather the companions had time to learn and get used to the Doctor, rather than just throwing all the information at them in one episode, and with said information not really being relevant to that episode. This is a solid episode for the most part, But like I say, I really do feel as though it does start to fall apart towards the end of it. And I will be blunt, I wasn't terribly thrilled with all the cold opening pre-title sequence stuff. I think at this point I am just sick to death of having opening episodes to Doctor Who where it is just the mundane cold opening stuff of, oh, here's the new companion and they're just having an everyday life just like you, and then the Doctor happens. I'm kind of sick of seeing that at this point. It was neat at one point, but it's a trope that's been worn down so much that at this point, yes, I would like it if we just kind of moved on from this now. Because at this point, it does feel like we are going through the motions of it, and I don't think anything new or interesting was done here. And yeah, we had to have the Miss Flood cameo, because that's still a mystery that we've got to solve. Couldn't we have just done that last season? Couldn't we have done that in a Christmas special? Couldn't we have just done something else? I just have zero interest in the whole Miss Flood stuff. I'm sorry. I have no interest in it whatsoever. And we're just going to get it piled out for another season. And maybe even a third season, depending on how all this washes out. But hey, let's not complain about stuff that's hypothetical. Let's complain about stuff that is literal and stuff that's in this episode. Why not? Why not? We started out being rather positive, so let's get us into the fatal flaw of this episode. Or rather, the second fatal flaw, because they killed the cat, which... not needed, really not needed, but sure, why not? We need some dark comedy in this episode, and this, Jesus Christ. I was really with this episode up until that final act. The moment that they revealed who the villain was and their motivations or lack thereof, that's a moment where I just went, oh no. And that became an even bigger oh no when we revealed what actually the motivations of them was. So, Jesus Christ. Can you tell that this episode was written before Adolescence came out? Like, for anyone who doesn't know, Adolescence is a Netflix drama which is about incels and incel culture, which has done spectacularly well in the UK, to the point where they are considering taking that into schools to show to kids, to help them through that kind of stuff and to avoid them going down that kind of path, or how to find those signs, how to get around it. And a great deal has been sent to say, no, these guys aren't just lunatics, they are people that have lost their way, and we need to take steps as a society to help them and to support them. And then we get an episode of Doctor Who, the Doctor, a character who is almost compassion personified. And when presented with a character who ultimately is within that world, we get an episode that treats it just like a bunch of just nothingness. It treats it as though it is this vague evil that is just something you can just wag your fingers and giggle at. That it treats it in a rather vulgar way, which makes me feel deeply uncomfortable. That a character that we know to be this compassionate, at the end of the day, doesn't make much of an effort to really save someone. Like, even if we exclude the whole incel stuff, which we may well come back to in this review, we've got a character, a villain who at the end of the day is ultimately kind of tricked into doing all of this. Like, it's because of Belinda that he is captured and he's taken to this planet, and to be blunt, they don't know that he's a psychopath. They don't know that he thought, oh, I got a planet with robots on it, I can kill them because it's just like a video game. They don't know that part of it. That's just something that they are assuming. They've got no reason to think or no reason to come to that conclusion. As far as they're concerned, this is just someone who was taken over by the machine. And that whilst they might have been awkward and weird and kind of incelly and uncomfortable, they've got no reason to suggest, or no way to come to the conclusion that they really were the murderous psychopath that the episode presents them as being. So, the fact that there was no kind of sense of, what was his name? Alan, whatever your name is. You don't have to do this. You don't have to go down this path. We can find a way from it. We can help you. We can save you. There wasn't even that. There wasn't even that kind of thing from the Doctor, which is the kind of thing you expect from the Doctor. Like, pretty much, he will always try to find a way of reasoning with a villain that he's with. He's tried to reason with the Daleks more often than not, even though he knows that at this point it's a pointless endeavour. It's like Charlie Brown trying to kick the football. It's not really a path that he should be going down, but at least he tries it. Here he didn't do that. And that feels odd to me, given the subject matter and given what we're presented to with this character. Again, this is a guy whose motivations are, oh, I get to kill people? Sweet! Which feels really weird. Like, it feels at first like it's a kind of, initially, some kind of take on violent video games for the whole, like, 10 seconds where you see him playing the kind of that cross between Halo and Call of Duty. Oh, it's because of video games. Oh, it's because he's an incel. Okay, are we sure we want to be going down this path? Because this feels rather tone deaf, especially given the direction of conversation over the past couple months or so. Like, this feels like one of those... Actually, you know what? I think this is the first time in a very long time that we've had an episode of Doctor Who age poorly before it was even released. Like, it does feel like such an odd... Even beyond just the subject matter of it, even just beyond the fact that that's what the villain is, the fact the Doctor made no efforts to try and save them or reason with them or bring them back in any capacity, because at the very least, had they done that, had they made more of a conscious effort to do that, and even if at the end they got defeated in the way that they did do, you could at least say the Doctor tried. But they really didn't. And it ends up taking what is a very hot button topic at the time this video was recorded and just treats it as a monster of the week thing. It treats it in a very guileless, very uncomfortable way in hindsight with it. Look, I'm going to go off on a tangent, so I'm going to stop myself going off on that tangent, but the fact that at the end of the day they could have literally have just had the big AI things just being an evil robot, and the episode itself would have been fine. Like, literally, had it just been evil, bleepy bloopy alien robot guy that is the big villain at the end of this, I would have been perfectly fine with this episode. I'd have given it a thumbs up, I'd have recommended it and say, oh, goody gumdrops, we've had a great opening episode of Doctor Who. The fact that they, for whatever reason or another, decided to bring a hot button topic into this and then did nothing with it, but you know there's going to be a lot of people patting them on the back for saying, oh, you're so brave for tackling this thing by not tackling it in any capacity but just having it within the episode. You're so brave by doing... Oh, good lord, I really, really hated that part of it. And it's a shame because at least I was on board for the vast majority of this episode. Like, I know that it's fun to kick Doctor Who at the moment, but I was on board with this until that final act came along. And then thereafter, given how it ultimately ends up being resolved with this guy that is ultimately tricked and manipulated to become an evil robot man just being turned into a sperm and an egg and just being swept away, and the murderous glee that was on the face of the Doctor and Belinda just... Okay. It kind of then took the wind out of everything thereafter when we started to get into the mystery of, oh, what's the mystery with this companion? Oh, we're going through time, and oh, we could potentially, oh, look, there's ruins of the planet Earth floating about in space. Oh, what's going on? Oh, what's going to be happening here? I mean, it kind of takes the wind out of that stuff where you just kind of feel like, ew. Did you... Oh, God, did you really have to go down this path with something like this? Is this really the end result that we wanted? Oh, Jesus, maybe... I wish that the big rumour for this episode was true, that we'd actually have the Daleks in it, because at the very least that probably would have saved us from all of this. But anyway, with that said, let us get into the performances, and I will just say that Ncuti Gatwa did fine as the Doctor, though for the most part this is an episode that's not really focused around them. Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, he's a fine presence. When he's allowed to act like the Doctor, he's great at it. When he's made to act like some kind of facsimile of the modern Doctor, aka David Tennant, it just feels like someone playing a facsimile of David Tennant. When he gets to play the Doctor in his own way, in his own style, great, fantastic. I just wish there was a little bit more on that, but it's understandable because this is Vada Sethu, and I apologise if I mispronounced the name. This is her great debut in the episode as Belinda Chandra, and I think that she did a great job, even though she was written in a way which kind of feels typical of this type of companion. With Doctor Who, in the modern sense of it, you ultimately have two different types of the companion. You either, well, three I suppose. You have the wide-eyed, oh golly gosh, let's go on adventure type, and then you have the kind of sassy, grumpy one, which is what Belinda feels like she's falling into, or you have the kind of sassy, snarky one that Clara and whatnot fall into, and she does certainly feel, like I say, Belinda feels like she's more of the slightly grumpy, put out kind of one, which is fine, because I think it's a role that she plays off well. I'm interested to see how this evolves and develops as we go forward with this series. Though I will just say that I wish there was a little bit more done for her, because, well, that's always what's the feeling that you're going to have when a new character debuts in Doctor Who. You want to see more of them, which is a good thing. It's just that I feel that, well, I was going to start talking about that twist ending again, but even then I don't think we will do. But we'll just say I think it's positive performances for the pair of them. I think that they end up doing good. I think that John Green, who played Johnny Green, who played Alan, was good. I think that he played the evil robot version of him very well. I just wish that he had just been a robot and not just Incel Bot 2000. With that said, let us get into the overview. This is a rather short review because I will be honest, yeah, the final act twist as to the motivations of our villain did really deflate my enthusiasm for this episode. Had it not been that, and had it just been evil robots trying to take over and kill people, oh, I could probably have talked about this episode for another 5 minutes, especially with that stuff teasing towards the end of the episode of the big mystery for this season, but regrettably, that can't be the case, because, my god, seriously, dude. Like, I know you can't, like, retroactively, like, change the entirety of the episode, but, mate, seriously, seriously. Maybe a little ADR here and there, you could have at least lessened the impact of it, but, good lord. Here's the rest of the world wanting to have a grown-up discussion of how you deal with incel culture, and here's Russell T Davies. Hey, let's blow them up! Not literally what he's saying, but that's practically what he's saying. And it would be fine in almost any other well, I say fine, but you get the idea. It would be stomachable in almost every other TV series, any other science fiction series. But Doctor Who, the Doctor, a character who is compassionate even in the most dire of situations, a character that tries to sympathise and find a diplomatic path through problems like this, who tries to reach people on a human level, ultimately not doing that with such a human problem. You can't treat... look, to summarise a massive amount of things I'm thinking right now, you cannot take real world problems, whether that is incel culture, whether that is racism, whether that is homophobia or any kind of bigotry, and just use it as window dressing in the way that this episode ultimately ends up doing. These are subject matters which are far too serious and far too consequential to the lives of millions of people on this planet to just treat it as a mechanism to justify your sci-fi bullshit. You can't do that because it is an incredibly insensitive thing to do, and you certainly can't do that with a series like Doctor Who, which is a series that has always tried to find a diplomatic and compassionate way through complex problems like this. I know that a lot of Doctor Who episodes ultimately boil down to blowing up or destroying the embodiment of whatever that thing is, but at least in those episodes there is an attempt, brief as it is, to try and find another way through it. This episode doesn't do that, and it's a major detriment to it. Maybe I wouldn't be feeling the same way as this had Adolescence not come out, maybe not, but at the same time, this is not the time or the place to really be doing something like this. It really isn't. But with that said, let me know what you thought about this episode down below. Only comments I have from the Christmas special, and that's been so long that, well, practically in a whole other era of Doctor Who at this point. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Did you love it? Did you hate me? Hate me? No. Don't tell me that you hated me. My self-esteem and anxiety is high enough as is. Let me know whether you liked or hated or whatever this episode. Let me know in the comment section down below, and you'll be read in a future video. But between the now and the next future video, I'll say thanks for listening and see you next time. Goodbye!
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!